Now, I've often had Parmesan crumb veal, Parmesan crumb chicken, beautiful too, always like it. Parmesan crumb fish, I had it just the other day. Very nice it was. I'm going to do it today. No, it was lovely, it really was. Only one little secret to it, you know, no big deal, but use fresh Parmesan, don't use the packet stuff. Grate it yourself. Doesn't matter whether it's Australian or imported, I don't care, but do grate it yourself. Now, I'm just doing a small amount here, so I've got some flour, and I'm seasoning that flour. Now, you all know how to do this because I've shown you millions of times before. An egg wash, which is just an egg and some milk. And just beat that up. And then last but not least, we want some breadcrumbs. So just some packet breadcrumbs. I actually get a better result. I was trying to think. I was going to say reaction. What am I talking about? A better result from the packet breadcrumbs than I do from the homemade ones, unless your bread's really, really stale, because I always find them a bit lumpy and a bit soft. And when they're a bit too soft, it's very sad, but what happens is it does tend to burn because you've got sort of lumps in it. And the fresh Parmesan that I was talking about. See, because your biggest problem, because the Parmesan's really soft, unless you're really careful, you can get yourself into a bit of trouble. So we'll just do that. Now, what I normally work on is about 1/3 Parmesan to 2/3 breadcrumbs, and mix it together really, really well. Right, I'll just dump this here, because while that's happening, I'm just going to start this flame. And always cook them in olive oil. The olive oil adds a wonderful flavour, and you have to put a decent amount. The base of the pan has to be covered, because you really are talking about delicate things. The Parmesan softens, obviously, those breadcrumbs, because what's going to happen is as the Parmesan melts, it'll become a lot softer, and unless you're really careful using a non-stick pan, plenty of good oil, you're going to find that it's all going to come off in lumps. What I've also got there is just some beautiful fresh salmon fillets. Now that's skin removed and all the bones. Always remember there's sometimes some bones along there, so just run your finger along there, make sure the pin bones have gone. And I'm then going to just cut those in half this way. Obviously you get them different shapes, but the whole thing about it is you don't want them too thick. If you liked and you want to do it really quickly, you could then just put some doubled over Glad wrap on top and just batten it out a little. I don't mind them being that thick, but that's just a thought. And then into the flour, flour them rather well, then into your egg wash. Now we shake the flour, and then we'll dip them into the breadcrumb. I'll just move that off because it's taking longer than I thought. And now we just dip them well into that egg wash and then into the crumbs. And using your other hand so that you don't get any lumps, we will then crumb it. You can see what I mean about being soft, because there's quite a lot of Parmesan there. And then into the pan. Now the pan's off the heat, but that's fine because that is quite hot. So do remember the secret of it is whichever hand that you've used to put in the egg wash, don't then put it into the breadcrumbs. Now, keep an eye on it. We'll turn this once. The advantage of doing it with salmon is salmon's really nice, a little undercooked, so you're fine. But if you used another fish, which you obviously could, just be a bit careful. You may find that you need to turn it down a bit, which I will anyway. Just a smidgen. All right, while that's happening, let's think about some crushed potatoes to go with it. Now, I cooked those potatoes just before. You see, sorry, Noel. Right, just some baby potatoes are still warm, which is exactly what I want. I'm going to make a small amount of dressing to go with it. Just some olive oil, a little bit of lemon juice. There's a lot of pips in that, so I will use my juicer. All right, we'll put that in there. A little bit of garlic. That clove's a bit big for this amount, so I won't put all of it in. A little bit more. Right, just a little bit of mustard. I would reckon about a quarter of a teaspoon. And we'll just whisk that up a little. And last but not least, I'll just chop some chives, and that these chives, the end of them is pretty rubbishy, so we'll just pull those off. And then just slice some, just like that. I want quite a few chives in that. Throw that in there. Whisk it up once again. So you've got a nice mustardy dressing. Let's just taste it with the chives. Will give it a bit of zing. Good. Good, 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 good. A little bit of salt. Now, the potatoes themselves, we're just going to throw them in there. As I said, they're still warm, which is great because I want them to take up all those juices. Always remember, if you're making a potato salad or anything, or crushing them like this, they will take up the juices when they're hot, or the sauce or the dressing or whatever you want to call it, far more than when they're cold. When they're cold, they're separate entities. They don't combine. Let's just have a look. Ah, beautiful. Beautifully cooked. Let's just turn that off. Grab a plate. A mound of this crushed potato. I reckon when you're doing the crushed potato, what you need is about 2 or 3 of those chats per piece, per person, I suppose we would say, wouldn't we? Then on top of that, drain it fairly well. We're just going to put a piece of that. Smallest bit of olive oil over the top of that mix, just in case. Wedge of lemon on the side. Maybe a garnish of chive. I'm getting all fancy here. You get all carried away. Ah, well, that's what happens, isn't it, when you're pleased with a dish. I know what I'm doing. So, all right. So just a garnish of chive. And that's classy food. And as you saw, it's also pretty simple. You'll be impressed by that. The salmon and the Parmesan crust really, really works very, very well. It just adds a little bit of zing to a very sweet flesh.